When you screw up, you got to shake it off and recover. Hi, my name is Charles Ray Dawson. I'm the Associate Broker, Residential Sales Manager at ProStar Realty. This is the Unnamed Real Estate Podcast, episode 123. And the reason why I'm looking like this is because I'm disappointed in myself, in my viewers, in reality. Mostly myself. So, anyways, long story short, hope you guys are all doing pretty good. Last night, I called my folks because it was my mother's birthday. And I wound up talking to my dad. My dad is probably my biggest fan when it comes to watching this podcast. Hi, Dad. And it's probably because he's retired and doesn't have a lot to do. But so seeing his son on the YouTubes is probably the highlight of his week. Keep trying to get him out of the house and go do something fun, But hey, retirement. I wonder if I'll ever see retirement. I wonder what it'd be like. Hey, who am I kidding, all right? Generation X, we knew you boomers were going to spend all the money before we got to it. So, yeah. So I'm talking to my dad and stuff like that, and he mentioned something, and he mentioned that last week's episode seemed to be, that's 122, seemed to be a repeat of 121. Now, I've already caught the spelling mistake that I made on the title screen before I threw that up there. All right. Actually, after I threw it up there. And then I didn't realize that in my rush last week to try to get that post out on time and with everything else, in case you guys don't know, I really try to schedule Thursdays just for this podcast. Gives me time to research, gives me time to get into it, make it a quality production. At least by Ray standards of quality. And for some reason, the universe has heard that, and every person I know goes out of their way to schedule stuff on Thursday. I don't know why it is. I don't know particularly why it is. I have a sales rep with a title company. I've told her every time, I got every day open but Thursday. Okay, so Thursday at 3? Okay, and she's fired. Like, seriously, I'm just trying to figure out how to fire that sales rep and keep that escrow officer because she's done pissed me off. Not just on this, but title company sales reps, one of them, they're a dime a dozen. If you get a good one, you hold on to them like just freaking solid gold. The best one that I've ever worked with my entire life, when she got terminated from her company because her dad was dying and she wanted to be there while he was in hospice, and a certain sales exec at a certain escrow company said, "No, we really think you need to be in the office, and they'll call you if you start slipping." So she left. She's actually working for a major hotel chain right now. Right, this woman is just brilliant. All right. Miss her a lot. If I could find more people like that on my team, I'd be running the world by now. But, in this particular case, Thursdays are really rough for me. So as I'm sitting there and people are calling me and asking me the silly questions of the day and stuff like that, I'm grabbing files and trying to clump them in. And I didn't realize that when I went to my application to actually stream all these clips together and make one movie, it always defaults to the last folder you had open, which was the week before. So when I grabbed that episode and I throw it up there, I actually grabbed episode 121 and threw it on top of 122. So I'm really glad my dad pointed that out to me. Melissa just a little disappointed that nobody else said, "Hey, Ray, this is a repeat," or anything like that. And then we had to go an entire week with that. But by the time you see this, I have already deleted the original 121. All right. And the duplicate of 121. I have uploaded 122, and to you guys, it will be absolutely seamless. It's like the mistake never happened. Can all go back in time and just make these mistakes go away. This little documentation, this me saying right now, I done fucked up, right, is the only time any evidence is ever going to exist, except in my heart, in my mind, and in the soul-crushing disappointment of my father. All right. So anyways, now that I got that all out of the way, let's talk about what's going on in the world. No Supreme Court drops this morning has anything to do with real estate. I did sit there and went to SCOTUS blog, looked up just in case anything interesting was going to drop. Nothing that I'm actually particularly interested in, especially not affecting the real estate side. We do have a lot of real estate news going on. And of course, we got our local numbers. And local numbers are going pretty much the way our local numbers go. And this is what those look like. So coming up on June 8th, 2023. Remember, these numbers are actually from June 7th that I recorded. All right, coming soon to an MLS near you are 614. All right, that's what we need. We need more property, right? Because that comes to 11,549. We're down 250 from the week prior. We've been on a slide since last October. So we're actually more of over 6 months of the slide happening on inventory alone. New listings actually came up a bit. We're at 1,758. Okay, that's up 103. Sounds pretty good. But contracts were at 2,426, which was up 161. So that makes it a little bit interesting, all right? Our contracts went up, okay? Our new listings went up, but since the contract succeeded and expires, cancels, everything else, we actually dropped on our actives down to 11,549. Closings last week were 2,179. Now, for our Cromford numbers, supply has dropped yet again to 51.9. So where we should have 2 houses for sale, we roughly got 1 house for sale. Now, demand actually dropped a little bit, 84.5. That actually came down a bit, but because of the ratio, comes up to the next number. Our Cromford report number still went up to 162.7. Still moving more and more into a seller's market. It's going to get more of a seller's market here, and we're going to cover that when we get to the news. But let's break it down to our little regional areas. And of course, we have Chandler still leaving the top of the list at 283.2. Wow. That's getting into insane numbers, insanity numbers. Glendale, all right, the place that you drive through on the way to go to Vegas, all right, is 269.6, followed by Fountain Hills, Gilbert, and Avondale. You know, we do not have a buyer's market anywhere in the valley right now. Buckeye's the closest that you're going to get at 92.9, right? Even though they're trending up. They were a buyer's market last month. Now they're in a balanced market. Maricopa is still in your balanced market, but those are the last two that you can even consider a balanced market, the kind of market where you might even be able to ask for seller's concession. Right. I just talked to a gentleman out, one of my agents. He just wrote an offer out in Fountain Hills and wanted 3% towards their closing costs on a full price offer. They're at 261, dog. That ain't going to happen. Right. Expect a counterback on your offer you just wrote that they're going to be taking the 3% towards closing costs payable by the seller off because they don't need to bribe the buyer to buy their house. Right, that's where we're at. And what's causing all this fun craziness? It's the interest rates, all right, and the lack of inventory that we have going on. All right, let's take a look at this number. Right, this is a cool little chart that Cromford put out. Months of supply. All right, months of supply is one of those things that we look at, and if starting today, no houses hit the market, nobody put a sign up in their front yard. Right. How long would it be at our current burn rate of people writing offers and offers being accepted until all of those listings disappeared? All right. So think of it this way. Here's your active. Okay. We're going under contract here. All right. If we go into contract at roughly 25 and we're at active, how long do we have until that all goes away? According to this chart right here, all right, we ended June at 2. Right, we have 2 months of supply. Now, 3 months is considered balanced. 3 months is considered healthy. All right. At one point, right back there in December, when things were going absolutely crazy, all right, what did we have? We were actually hit 6%. In some markets, 6% is considered reasonable. Right. Around here, we tend to run between the 2s and the 3s, and we are hit the 3s in April, May, and June, and we're blowing down. And let's take a look at 2021, the last of the red hot frickin' sellers markets from hell. All right. We literally, at some point, we had a week worth of inventory, meaning we had a week worth of no houses hit the market within a week. Remember that bathtub we keep talking about? That bathtub would have been drained out. Right. And as interest rates come down, like everybody's projecting, we'll get to that a bit in the news. All right. As everybody's projecting, we're going to be back here in the 1 and the 2. And this is definitely seller territory. This is, you do not get to mess around in this. You hit it hard. You write strong offers. You don't write weak offers. You don't ask for concessions. All right. And if you need to sleep on it tonight, you're not going to sleep in that house ever. All right. So hold on for just a second, guys. All right. Now let's talk local news, all right? Or national news, and we'll get down to the local side. All right. So, the three companies of Zillow, Compass, and Anywhere, these are three national real estate companies. They all got dropped out of the Fortune 500, and so they are, because of their stock losses, basically. For those who don't know, the Fortune 500 is the 500 most valued companies. It is a big thing to be on that because there's certain mutual funds out there that are designed only to own Fortune 500 stocks. So if you're suddenly delisted from the Fortune 500, then a whole bunch of people suddenly have to sell your stock. These mutual funds have to. So, and that's just because, at the national level, none of these companies are doing good. Even though you see home prices go up, right? It's the transactions everybody covers on this side. How many transactions are happening? Right. During the crash and everything like that, 2010, 2011, 2013, there were a lot of transactions going on, all right? Mostly, investors picking stuff up. But because there's a lot of transactions, these places still made money because they made it up in volume. Now there's no volume, and some of these bigger companies with bloated staffing are having to let people go, like Rocket Mortgage. All right, they had to let people go at the end of last year. They're still in the red this year. They haven't let go enough. They're still not processing enough loans. So that's a continuation of what we're seeing at the national level. In other places in the national level, certain markets are really, really getting screwed up. San Francisco, for some reason, everybody focuses on San Francisco and New York City and those areas. And that's mostly because that's where the reporters live. And the reporters report local news like it's national news. Right? So a big hotel company there, Parks Hotel in Resorts, right? They're actually shutting down their San Francisco hotels. They're for sale. Where apparently this hotel has over 3,000 rooms in it. It takes up an entire city block, and they've decided they just can't make money there. Conventions don't want to hold the conventions anymore in San Francisco. People aren't going to San Francisco to look at the bridge and this and that. It's turned into a desolate wasteland, all right? And that is having downstream impacts across the board in the surrounding areas. Those people pack up and move, right? San Francisco, last time I saw their numbers, and this was third quarter last year, they were down 10% on their property prices and still sliding in. I'm not sure if San Francisco can recover with its current political climate. I really don't. But just remember, when you hear national news, these guys are heavily weighting San Francisco and not heavily weighting, Texas and everywhere else. And speaking of Texas, all right, I was talking to somebody last night. I was talking to the wife last night, and we were talking about Texas, and she goes, "Hey, we can get property really cheap out there." And I'm like, "Yeah, but then you got to pay the property taxes, which is a huge thing." I mean, we're talking almost like Detroit level property taxes in certain parts of Texas. And apparently what's happening out there is, hold on, see what I mean about people not wanting me to record? I got an agent. We're having some agent stuff going on and stuff like that. So phone keeps ringing, and it's her, and I gotta take it, and we interact with each other. So, anyways, where were we? Yeah, let's talk about Texas is looking forward to cutting their property taxes. Apparently, they had like a $17.9 billion tax surplus, and they want to cut taxes to reflect that. So that will make Texas even more attractive to people to move to as a cheap, affordable state with a good economy to move into. Humidity, all right, but hey, some people are okay with the humidity. Another thing that came out is automatic valuation systems. This is handled by a lot of lenders when they do and they qualify a buyer for purchase. It's an algorithm. It all does magic algorithm stuff and says yeah, no, depending on what the person and property looks like. There's been some complaints coming in that some of these algorithms are coming up with discriminatory results. All right, so there's some pushback, and they're starting to look into this thing. Now, when you have that kind of regulation on anything, remember, big companies can respond better than small companies. If you suddenly have to have your algorithm for doing this certified by a third party, well, you're going to have to pay that third party. And trust me, Wells Fargo can pay that third party a whole lot easier than mom and pop bank down on the corner. All right, so keep an eye out for that. That will have an impact. And unfortunately, I think it's going to raise consumer costs across the board. And I think it's going to start knocking out some of the lower lenders, the smaller lenders, right? Which honestly, at being in real estate, they give you better service, all right? Nothing makes my heart sink more than somebody coming in or getting an offer with a Wells Fargo, right? Literally, the house we're closing on next week, we took the small broker, small lender offer over the Wells Fargo offer. The two offers were identical, right? But we knew that the small lender would be more responsive to our situation, right? So let's see what else is going on. Big news hit Arizona. In fact, people were commenting like almost immediately in the video nobody watched last week. Mentioning this is that there is going to be a building restriction happening in Maricopa County. This was announced by Governor Katie Hobbs, and the news instantly came out that says, "Oh, Katie Hobbs, evil Democrat fascist extraordinaire, because she hates humanity, is trying to stop all building in Maricopa County." That's what Twitter. That was the Twitter take. In reality, what happened is that she's enforcing some building laws that we already have on the books, so with a little bit higher scrutiny. You can't build a house if you can't get water to it. Right? It's against the law here in Arizona. Right? If you're going to build a house, you have to prove that there's going to get water to it. And some of the builders have been playing really loosey-goosey out there in Queen Creek and what was the other one? Buckeye. About, oh yeah, we got water. We just drill down, we pull it out of the aquifer. Well, the problem with pulling it out of the aquifer is it's back to the bathtub routine, right? Aquifers get replenished, water comes into the aquifer, and then we pull the water out. All right, if you pull more water out than goes in, your water table sinks. All right, and then all of a sudden you don't have water. So we don't want to look at you pulling water out of the aquifer through a well as a reliable source of water. It's a source of water, but it's not really reliable. All right. And what was that movie? The one with the oil wells. Daniel Day-Lewis, and he's sitting there and he's got his straw, and I'm sticking my straw in and I'm drinking your milkshake. No Country for Old Men? Anyways, I can't remember, but it's like that. Everybody puts their straws in the milkshake and they all drink it dry. And then next, you're going to have, cities and townships and subdivisions out there who don't have water because they only plan to have that aquifer. And so sort of putting a stop to that. This is going to be a lot of fun, right? Just like we were looking at our notes in here, especially Buckeye. These are the last areas you see real decent, new build, affordable housing. And now they have to get that under control. Now, apparently there are 80,000 permits that have already been issued out in these areas. So we're going to get 80,000 homes eventually. Those are going to be allowed to go through. But what happens if a new building stops? Right? Remember, we've been talking the numbers in the entire time. We've been talking about our major problem with affordability here in Arizona is lack of inventory. And we just put a major kibosh on that until we get this water thing worked out. Not sure what the fix is going to be. There was an idea came out from the previous governor that we're going to put a desalination plant in. In fact, there's an Israeli company that is saying that they will build a desalination plant here in Arizona and pump water out of the Sea of Cortez, desalinate it, take the salt out, and then we'll have water. That's going to be expensive. That's going to be many years down the road. And there are all sorts of hurdles and hiccups that are going to get in the way of that. Where are you going to run the pipes? All right. Are there going to be desert tortoises? All right. Or, endangered plants? Where are you going to get the energy to run a desalination plant? That's an energy intensive thing, right? A lot of engineering problems. Now, with engineering problems, engineers fix engineering problems. Engineers can't fix political problems, right? And when you're talking about going through the environment of a desert tortoise. Now you have a political problem. Right. Now we have location. Now we have intimate domain problems, right? Will that be the fix? Engineer says it could be a fix. Politicians, you know how they are. So, all things considered, I think I'm going to wrap this one up. Like I said, I'm still, I thought I was going to go longer and everything like that, but I still got to deal with this issue going on the other side. So this is where we're at. This episode is going out after I fix the other one. You guys deal with everything else. Other things you got to remember, all right, is that as we do go, especially in Arizona, as we get into the summertime and stuff like that, you can start dialing back the water on your lawns. All right. You can maybe not wash your cars as much. Why bother? Dust storm's going to screw it up anyways, okay? And while you're doing all that, you're watching your children and pets around the water because we're in the drowning season, all right? Not even going to mention driving into flooded zones unless there's a monsoon, all right? But you can work your circles, treat each other right, and have a great weekend. See you next week.